Welcome one, welcome all to the 2024 Wisey Awards, celebrating the best, worst, and nuttiest of 2023. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Crenity. We've got a lot of great awards going on tonight. This will be a very different break from our normal shows. We're not gonna have the blast tonight. We're not gonna have the Wisey translator tonight. This is really just about us celebrating everything from the past year now that we've actually approached the end of January of 2024, and everyone else seems to be handing out envelopes. And I'm going to bring in my partner, Mike Martinez. Mike, thanks for dressing up, buddy.
Well, listen, I figured, you know what, as the de facto Jimmy Kimmel to my Guillermo, I was going to dress up, and then this beauty came in the mail. I got to tell you, I was just flipping through Amazon. I got a gift card for my birthday. And this came across and I went, oh, I have to do it, don't I? Yeah, I do. I really do.
Yes, you're a dick.
And with his quick exodus, I don't think I'm wrong.
I 9 for 9.
Yes, you are.
9
And
for
I
9.
think we both called. I almost said San Diego again. I think we both called the Chargers for him. He's always been a fan of Justin Herbert. So we'll get into all that next week. We'll get into the coaching carousel. We'll get into a whole bunch of other things next week. And we've got the Hall of Fame ballot came out.
If you even think of his replacement, I mean, do we call that 10 for 10?
I don't call common sense picking someone, Jim, because that was the only choice they really had.
Right.
I mean, I know they're not the brightest bunch up north of that state line, but they really couldn't screw that one up if they tried. Outside of hiring Connor Stallions to be the head of scouting or something, out of the that, they could.
So what's it like to be able to spend half of your money on bills and half of your money on rents, having that school in your head 24/7?
You know, it's odd because they didn't live there until the last couple of years. They were an afterthought, but I tell you what, the rivalry is going to be fun with the things that are going on in both towns. Hopefully, it's not as bad as we've been speculating it is, and we can have some fun with these two teams going forward. Hopefully, we get a W here sooner rather than later.
Well, for your aspect at this particular point, I'm kind of done with college football, not just for this season, but going forward, it's going to be very, very hard for me to really want to pay attention to it anymore with the chaos that's ensued and the fact that it's now just going to get worse.
Yeah, it is going to get a little tough for some people to watch. I will give you that. But with the dawn of the new playoff era next season, I think that'll put a layer of excitement in. I mean, hey, we got the Big Ten going to be shaped like a phallus starting next year with games that we never thought we'd see unless you scheduled an out-of-conference game. So that'll be fun. It will wear off after a while, and we'll be like, it's free agency. It's this, it's that. So lots to get to in the shows coming up. But let me tell you something. I'm excited for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the few shows Jim and I actually plan out. We had an hour, we were on the phone like an hour and a half that night.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
About a 90-minute video call where we broke down everything we wanted to give away. We broke down, got to give a tip of the hat to my wife who did the graphics for the Wisey Award this year and also the Hall of Fame Award, which we will give out at the end of the night. So, Jim, last year we did a monologue because we had more time to prep for it. I got nothing.
What can we already say that hasn't already been said leading up to it? As many jokes as we've cracked.
That's true. And I don't have Hugh Jackman walking behind me and asking to play Wolverine one last time. Please tell me you saw the Deadpool trailer thing. Didn't I make you sit through that?
You did, but there was what was I watching the other night where it was on YouTube, but I don't remember what it was from. But they's like your favorite. It was name your favorite Hugh, and it was like Jackman. Somebody said Lori, and nobody else could come up with anybody else. It's like the only other one I could think of is Grant.
Hefner?
That's 4.
Grant, Hefner, Jackman. Are we doing variations of the name? Huey, like Huey, Dewey, and Louie?
Or Huey Lewis?
That's a rough one, though. You didn't hear about he lost his hearing.
I know about
that's why
that.
They're not performing. Yeah,
I know about
that's rough.
That.
Especially since Power of Love keeps coming up on YouTube Music for me, like the music video with Christopher Lloyd in the car and everything.
Yep. I mean, but he's still making money off of that. So.
Oh my God, yes. And One Tree Hill, and what was that movie what he did with Gwyneth Paltrow? And they sang that old Smokey Robinson song, duets.
And then also Back to the Future.
Dude, that is the best cameo I've ever seen this side of stuff that what's his name? Marvel, Stan Lee did. Because no one knows that. You're like, who? Why is the guy yelling at him? It's Huey Lewis telling him he's playing his song too loud. I mean, that's genius.
There was a part of me for the longest time that thought one of the terrorists in Die Hard was Huey Lewis because he looked just like him.
He did. Yes, he did.
It's like, but you can't kill Huey Lewis.
I mean, you can.
You can, but you don't. Huey Lewis versus John McClane. I'll put my money on Huey Lewis.
He hit him with a saxophone.
He's got an entourage.
And he's got all the new drugs. Oh, come on. But it's all right.
You know,
are
you going to start doing drug PSAs?
I can't. The more you know. Oh boy, the soundboard's got some toys on it now, don't it?
It do, and you'll get them eventually. Maybe.
You said that about the last 10 or 12 you put on there too, Dick. I still don't. Is that is that foreshadowing of something, James?
You've got an award for it.
I do. Do you want to lead off with that? Where do you want to start?
Well, I kind of, the way that I have everything lined up, I have an order.
However,
so let's give out our first award of the night here. We're already
sounds
10
good,
minutes
man.
in. We kind of done a little bit of a monologue, just basically bullshitting back and forth here.
Which is all a monologue is anyway.
That is very, very true. Our first award of the evening, our first Wisey Award, and I apologize to Miss Reekin. I was in such a rush trying to put some of this together. I forgot to upload the one that she did to these, but it is on the Hall of Fame one, and you will see it, but it will be our template going forward. So our initial award for this evening is Best Team.
So, as you can see on the list of nominees, we have the Detroit Lions from 9-8 in 2022 to 12-5 in 2023, NFC North champions, and now they will play tomorrow in the NFC Championship game. We have our Cleveland Cavaliers, 51-31. First 50-win season without a guy named LeBron James and or the group from the late 80s, early 90s. Lost in the Eastern Conference quarterfinals last year and are 26-15 and have won 8 straight going into this week.
Actually, that was when I put this together. They are now
they won 9 out of.
They are now 27-16 and won 9 out of 10,
including a 10-point win or what was it, 12-point win last night in Milwaukee. The Arizona Diamondbacks. Listen, you get blown out of the division, but beat the Dodgers in the division series and get to the World Series for the second time in franchise history. You're the Florida Panthers. They were the last team into the playoffs last year. And then, of course, they go on and play and get to the Stanley Cup Finals. And finally, we have the Washington Huskies. A 14-0 regular season, the final Pac-12 championship, and lost, of course, in the championship game to the University of Michigan. A great year out of Washington. Michael Penix was a Heisman finalist and will be, I believe, a first-round quarterback in April's NFL draft.
Yeah, I would say if he doesn't go through the first round, certainly the second round. Let's see what the combine and his pro day does, because there's a lot of. Um, I have a very, I have a very good feeling that that Penix could be kind of like a Lamar, or like a I don't want to say like a Will Levis because the jury's still out on him, but somebody who may not go in the top 10 like a Mahomes, like an Allen, like a Goff, like a Burrow did, but certainly would be a first round pick that's going to sneak way under the radar. I don't think he's going to flame out like the other kid in Tennessee did.
I agree. So, Jim, the Wisey Award for Best Team goes to the Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers. They were the final team again to qualify for the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. They upset the President's Trophy champion Boston in the first round after trailing 3-1 in the series. They swept Carolina in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were the top two seeds who they went through to get to the finals and advanced to their second ever Stanley Cup Finals, losing to the Las Vegas Golden Knights in 5 games. More importantly, they got there with almost every member of their starting lineup beaten to a bloody fucking pulp.
By the time they got to the finals, absolutely, for a team to kind of back in, because let's remember, and we talked about this earlier in the season when it was happening, where they were on the verge of knocking off Boston, that the Panthers were the President's Trophy winning team the year before and then lost in the second round. And then, or it might have even been well, it wasn't the opening round themselves. But let's also keep in mind that Boston had the greatest regular season of any team in NHL history last year and was up 3-1 in that series, and then the bottom fell out.
Yeah, I mean, they came on out of nowhere. I remember it was one of our episodes over the summer. We were talking about it, and you told me, and then I looked it up, and I was just very, very impressed with the way the Panthers played in the rest of that series. Second generation player, is that Matty Tkachuk that's on that team?
Matty Tkachuk, and then also his brother Brady. We actually, in one of our later awards, the Tkachuks are going to come back up this evening. There will be some audio of this, but the Panthers right now trailing the Bruins, I want to say by 5 points right now for second in the Atlantic Division, and hit a little bit of a snag themselves, but it almost chased down Boston. And the amazing thing is with Boston losing some of the veteran talent that they had naturally with the retirement of Captain Patrice Bergeron, Milan Lucic, and then moving some other parts around, that Boston is still the top team in the East, and Florida's still now starting to get strong enough to be able to run them down.
Well, didn't they have, like, Matty Tkachuk didn't start the season, but on the injured list, there was a few different guys that didn't. Then they lost. Was it them that lost their goalie, or was it Tampa?
That was Tampa with Andre Vasilevsky, but Tampa got him back, and now they're in playoff contention again.
So yeah, to start a season after going on a Stanley Cup run when you were basically taping guys together with stick tape just to field your team in the Stanley Cup Finals. What a great what a great season by Florida last year, and what a great start to this season through all the adversity. Listen, I'm paying attention to hockey more because of you, dude, and I've been kind of keeping an eye on things. I'm very impressed. They're a very resilient bunch, and that goes a long way, especially in hockey.
Exactly. It's and behind me are up there for a reason. These guys have won 4 in a row. They are actually 1 point out of the final playoff spot, and these guys right here have the number 2. They have the second best record in the Western Conference right now, and the only reason why they're sitting third in the NHL in the Western Conference is because Colorado is 1 point ahead of them right now, because they've lost 2 in a they've lost back to back. But let's also keep in mind, you actually texted me yesterday about a certain someone who got broken off of one squad for controversial reasons, now joining up with a team who is 2 wins away from history. The Edmonton Oilers have won 15 straight games
Wow.
and have gone from middle of the pack and out of the playoff hunt to one of the top 3 teams in the Pacific Division. They still got a little bit of ways to go to chase down Vancouver and defending champion Vegas. But now signing Corey Perry after the controversial fashion he left, Chicago broke him off about a month ago. But I would like to see, because Edmonton, has got one of their toughest tests going up against Nashville tonight. Even though it's in Edmonton, these are teams with very, very similar records right now. But I would love to see Connor McDavid maybe get a shot at a ring this year.
Yeah, and that's the kind of player you want to see get a shot at a ring. He's been in the league for forever. One of the more classy stand-up acts in the NHL. And you want to see him get a shot in the ring. It was like when Ray Bourque went to Colorado. No one was pissed.
Right.
Because Ray Bourque got his cup. Is he still the only non-captain to receive it from Gary Bettman?
No, because Sakic did take it,
grabbed it and then gave it to him.
Handed it right off. Yeah, because that's the customary thing is that they actually they always give it to the captain and then it's captain's choice, because it used to be that they would hand it off to the alternate captains and then go from there. But it's whoever has it goes to who's ever's next. So when Tampa won it in 2004, Vinny LeCavalier gave it to Dave Andrechuk, who had been in the league for forever. When my Blues won in 2019, they gave it to Jay Bouwmeester, who had been in the league for 17 years and was in his first finals. So it's a lot of the times it's a sentimental choice, but it's always fun to see who's going to be the first one to hand off.
Well, yeah, that Messier gave it to Adam Graves,
right,
in '94. I'm sorry, he didn't give it to Adam Graves. He gave it to Brian Leach in '94. I remember that pretty vividly. I remember Messier just was losing his mind.
Right, and the ironic thing is that Leach was the one who deserved it, but was also, very, very strange, because the captain typically doesn't hand off any, in the last 20, 30 years to an alternate captain.
Yeah, I still think Mike Richter should have won the what's the playoff MVP?
Conn
Smythe. Mike Richter should Mike Richter. The goalie.
It was Mike Richter.
Mike Richter, I'm sorry. I got Mike Richter and Mike Gartner in my head going
Mike
like
Gartner
this.
Played with the Leafs for all those years.
Yeah, and he should have been the Conn Smythe winner that year. No disrespect to Brian Leach, who was a phenomenal player, but Mike Richter should have won the Conn Smythe. He stood on his head for that run.
He did.
That is still, by the way, that's still my favorite goalie face-off in a playoff series. You had him in one net and Marty Brodeur in the other.
Yes.
That Eastern Conference Finals against the New Jersey Devils was outstanding. And, of course, we have Howie Rose's second famous call where he sounds like he hurt himself. Because Bobby says when he hurts his foot, he goes, my toe. And I just...
Matt toe. Speaking of hurting themselves.
Oh, here we go.
Let's give out another award. We go from the best team to the most
disappointing. Hey, look who's up there again.
We have the New York Mets, who had a major league record $347 million payroll, finished 8 games under 500 and finished 4th in the NL East, and were flirting with the basement for a little while there. The Colorado Buffaloes signed first-year head coach Deion Sanders, start off 3-0, beat a relatively overrated TCU team who had lost 8 players to the draft, who were the national runners-up, finished 4-8, and finished last in the Pac-12. The New York Yankees finished 82-80, 4th in the American League East. The Boston Bruins, who were the victims of our last award, Again, an NHL record 135 points in the regular season and then lose in the first round to the Panthers. And then the Denver Broncos, who under first-year head coach Sean Payton finished 8-9 after giving up 70 points to Miami, win 5 in a row, and then lose 4 out of 5 down the stretch to miss the playoffs by a game.
And the Wisey for most disappointing team goes to the Colorado Buffaloes. Now listen, this is more about the hype train that they were on to start the season. This was a team that basically redefined the transfer portal because they had to. They were 1-11 the year before. So 4 wins is a step in the right direction for this program. However, they got a little bit too much pub because of Coach Prime.
And and that's not enough reason to be able to give you 5 primetime or nationally televised games where in 4 of them you got run off the field.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't. But I will say this. Having Colorado back in this thing, and I think he's going to keep improving year over year, is good for college football.
Let's see with them going to the Big 12 now. Now, even though the Big 12 is losing their 2 biggest heavy hitters in Texas and Oklahoma, there's still a couple of really big guns where Colorado might be able to improve a little bit, maybe get to a bowl, on a whim next year. But let's pump the brakes on it a little bit, so this way we don't have a repeat of what happened last year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you'll see him as much in the national media as last year because it is the second year. Some of the shine wears off of it, So let's see what happens. But I tell you what, that game against Stanford was the worst one out of all of them. That you can't lose that game.
No. You also
and your offensive line needs to be able to protect your damn kid too.
You also can't take your in-state rival that you've dominated 5 of the last 6 years and then need 2 overtimes to beat them.
No, I agree. So listen, Colorado, unfortunately, you get the Wisey for disappointing. It was my Mets last year. Or was it the Dodgers last year?
I believe it was the Dodgers.
Who could have been in this running this year? You boat race the Arizona Diamondbacks by 16 games in your division. You lose. Did they get swept?
I don't think it was a sweep. I thought it was 4, wasn't it?
Yeah. You lose 3-1 in the division series to a team you boat raced by 16 games. That's adorable. Well, listen, man, we're hitting right off the gate here. Those are 2 pretty good ones. But as everybody knows, we aren't always serious with this as we have been with the first 2, which you will see as we go in the show. We will get into ones that you'll make you want to look at us and go, dude, really?
Oh, just wait. We've got a couple more ahead for that, but Michael's got a gem coming up here.
Yeah. Which we probably should have changed something after some other information came out, but I think the winner of that one is still going to be the one that ends up the way we're speaking of.
We could get an honorable mention, but the problem is that there's one honorable mention that just came out in the last 24 hours, but that might actually fit if we do the same award for next year.
I think we should.
I think you actually know who I'm discussing. Too.
I do know who you're discussing.
We will bring them up when the award is handed out.
You want to talk about a dumb son of a bitch. I mean, come on, man.
That's good shit, pal. Literally.
That is so bad. It's so bad.
We've got to pivot away from that one.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So, Jim, which way did you want to pivot?
Let's actually get back on the good here.
Okay, cool. Oh, the best moment. We have down goes Anderson as Cleveland's Jose Ramirez knocks out Tim Anderson at second base in Cleveland. That's my life moment of the year. So we'll move on to the next one. The Lioness retires as Amanda Nunes walks away, still double UFC champion after a final victory. Miggy's final game. Miguel Cabrera retires to his home fans at Comerica Park at the end of this year. Adam Wainwright gets his 200th win on September 18th against Milwaukee, only the third Cardinals pitcher to reach that mark. Bob Gibson, of course, who won all 251 of his games with the Cardinals, and Jesse Haynes at 210. And the Joker at his presser after he wins the NBA Finals, and he just wants to go home. He don't care about a parade or going to Disneyland. He wants to go home.
Nope.
We've all been there. We can all
his tune changed real quick though when his daughter said she wanted to go to Disneyland.
That's everybody's tune changes when your kid says you're going to they want to go to Disneyland and you don't got to pay for it.
And he got a car out of it or something too?
Do you understand how expensive Disney is?
He also wanted the parade to be able to have an excuse to like let loose because he knew once the off season came and he went back home, he couldn't do that shit no more.
That's true. Not in Serbia.
No.
And the best moment, Wisey, for 2024 goes to down goes Anderson. Tom Hamilton on this call was he sounded like a boxing broadcaster.
Michael, don't read too much into the call because there may be an appearance of the call later in the evening.
Oh, that's wonderful. So the best part about this is, first of all, Jose Ramirez, number one. Look at the arm. Look at his arm in that picture. Why would you want to piss him off?
It was a glancing blow, too, because he wasn't even looking at him. Anderson threw 4 punches and didn't connect with any of them. Jose threw 1 punch and dropped him.
That's why you don't mess with a Hispanic in his home territory. The T-shirts. I mean, I can't even imagine. What was the one you were telling me you wanted to buy?
Oh, God, I gotta find it now.
But this and the best part is Michael Kopech, who I just got an Instagram message from Alex, by the way, who of course is a White Sox fan, kind of. Alex was rooting for Jose Ramirez in that fight.
I found it.
I mean, when you get Mike Tyson talking about it, they went Muhammad Ali on it?
Because Jose's thing is whenever he walks off a game with a dinger, and Jose doesn't speak a ton of English, he always talks with Cleveland Guardians kind of sideline reporter Andre Knott, and Andre.
Andre's the best.
Andre always will ask him what pitch he swung, and Jose's response is always home run pitch. So simple. Down goes Anderson. Bro. Knockout punch.
Exactly. Did he say that?
No.
It says it on the bottom. Okay. Yep. I was like, oh, did he say that? I mean, first of all, Jose Ramirez did not feel right about what he did. I will give him credit where credit is due. He literally was upset at himself for doing that because he didn't want to take away from its playing time. But, bro, you gave us all something to smile about.
You did. And let's also remember that Tim Anderson kind of asked for that with some of the antics he was pulling in the few days prior.
Oh, yeah. And Terry Francona, who was on his farewell tour, comes out and tries to fight the other manager. Who else got run? The third base coach?
Mike Sarball went after somebody. Yeah.
And he's now the third base coach of the Mets.
Yep.
Oh, good. Maybe we'll get in a fight this year and actually play with heart. Oh. So, James.
Michael.
I do have to ask you one other question while we're thinking about it. As we know, the Royal Rumble is going on tonight, and we saw the new king of all sports media. And I'm not afraid to say that. Pat McAfee, of course, comes out to call the Rumble. WWE put out a thing, the 25 most surprising Rumble entrants. And of
Yep.
course, Michael Cole, a few years ago when he was in it, was one of them. Would you be excited to see? I know you don't like WWE anymore, and especially not with what the Nazi did. Would you be excited to see McAfee in a Rumble?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
There's certain guys, like, you save those spots for guys who, like, nostalgia. Like, it's always nice when, like, Rob Van Dam or Kevin Nash shows up, or you you save those spots for somebody cool or unexpected, and especially what we saw in the women's Royal Rumble match, where Naomi made her return after a year and a
Oh
half
yeah.
in Impact Wrestling, and then follow it up immediately, almost immediately after, by current TNA Knockouts champion Jordan Grace, making it the second time in 3 years that the TNA Women's Champion has been in the Royal Rumble after Mickey James was in the 2022 Rumble.
It's pretty cool.
It is very cool, and especially now with a lot of the talk of um, what we'll actually discuss when that time comes later in the show, as we've kind of forecasted, that now they've kind of opened their doors. And I don't want to say a forbidden door has been opened, because that's kind of reserved for AEW, but kind of a little bit maybe more of a working relationship for some of the big shows with your TNA, or maybe a New Japan or something like that, because because AEW's been working a lot with those other companies as well.
Yeah, and it works for him. And the one thing I will say is the people not named Vincent Kennedy McMahon that are running that business now, they know how to run the business. That's the one thing I will give Triple H. He knows how to run the business. And if it's smart business, he's going to do it.
Because one of the names rumored to be in the men's Royal Rumble tonight is a gentleman who Michael has probably not heard of, but he's definitely heard of his dad. His name
Who's
is
that?
his name is Braun Breaker.
Is that Brock Lesnar's kid? Oh, okay.
His father is one Richard Recksteiner,
Really?
the dog-faced gremlin.
I love him.
Who is his brother?
Big Papa Pump. I love him.
And especially, it kind of comes full circle, because if he shows up, his dad is the dog-faced gremlin, whose uncle is Big Papa Pump, and then we get Little Mama Pump in the women's Rumble in Jordan Grace,
That would be
who I
phenomenal.
showed you beforehand. And yeah,
Yeah.
I love me some Jordan Grace. I always have.
I'm quickly beginning to understand why. But who is the chick that jumped off the top rope and she just caught her?
Oh, that was in the clip that I showed you.
Yeah.
That was Candice LeRae, who's Johnny Gargano's wife.
That was Johnny's wife?
Which I feel
Johnny's wife
bad
got the
for.
piss
Yeah.
beat out of her.
I've got pictures of me with Johnny and Candice at AIW shows here in Cleveland. What a great couple.
Yeah, I'm sure Johnny's sitting ringside watching that, and she goes flying. He's like, this ain't going well.
He's probably watching in a monitor in the back, getting ready to come out for him, and probably get thrown all over the place as well.
I always do enjoy those random people go in the Rumble. They get 10 seconds of fame, and then people. My favorite's still the Hurricane. When he's
Morales 2 seconds.
No. What was it?
Where Hurricane Helms tried to choke slam Triple H and Austin.
Yeah, and they just kind of looked at each other and tossed his ass out.
Me personally, it was when Drew Carey eliminated himself after Kane was coming after him.
You've heard Edge tell the story about the night Cena and Batista hit the floor at the same time, right?
Right. And where Vince blew out both
Blew both
quads.
his quads.
God, he couldn't even fucking do that right.
Oh my god. Oh, by the way, he's badass in the Percy Jackson show.
Of course. It's Adam frickin' Copeland.
I mean, Haven. It's on Tubi. Haven is the name of the show.
Oh yeah,
Phenomenal.
yeah, because I've seen him in Haven because that was like when I was watching like Lost Girl and Dark Matter and like sci-fi had some really good original shows about 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked him in it, and of course, it's Edge. Maybe the
Taz
most.
accidentally called him Edge on
Did he really?
He accidentally let it slip, and then he had to back, and then like here's Shivani trying to like cover it up real quick.
Whatever. And by the way, Taz still one of my favorites.
Absolutely, friggin' midget that he is. But it's oh, we actually have stop drinking because now you're gonna spit take again. We have a new super group in AEW.
What's it called?
The Acclaimed have now joined forces because Adam Cole's got a new stable since he turned heel.
Oh shit.
They have now aligned with Bullet Club Gold to form the Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
You need that fucking shirt.
I'm going to order it when I get my first check in February. Absolutely.
The Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
Because even though you're not a New Japan fan, everybody knows about Bullet Club.
Oh my god.
And because everybody loves the Acclaimed. It's the funniest thing now. It's just because for after a year worth of feuding, Billy Gunn's now back with his kids.
That's cool. That's cool.
His sons are the Guns who in Bullet Club Gold.
Austin That's awesome.
Gunn.
Dude, when did we get that fucking old?
That 940-year-old Billy Gunn is wrestling with his mid-20s sons. Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I mean, look at all the second generation guys that we're seeing now. I remember when The Rock and his first wife had the little one.
And now she's the general manager of NXT. Because she can't.
Oh, she's not.
She can't do shit in the ring.
Why not? Is she just not good? Or does she? You figure with that fourth generation blood, she might have something.
Yeah. She's just not very good in the ring.
Well, it happens, but if she's charismatic like her old man, you can parlay it into something else. She can work in the front office of the XFL, for God's sake. Her mother and father own it.
Correction, the UFL.
Oh, the UFL. Sorry.
Because remember, the USFL and the XFL merged.
Whatever.
Anyway.
Moving right along. Hit the other one for me, would you?
Shut up!
Oh, how I miss him.
The Wisey Award for Best Game.
Ooh, this is one of my favorites. Why don't you tell us all about this one?
This was games that we watched over the years. I even want to say we watched one or two of these together. One of them in person. And just what we saw from the year. Now, there were a couple of honorable mentions from this year's NFL playoffs, but those are in 2024, so we can't include those yet.
Yep.
So, first one, Mike and I watched on his couch down in on that very couch he's sitting on right now. The World Series
Yes.
won. The Rangers trail 5-3 to the Diamondbacks in the ninth. Score two to tie it on a 2-run home run by Cody Seager, and then walk off in the 11th inning.
Did we make it to the 11th inning, or did we both pass out?
I think we both passed out, and I went and I watched the rest of it on my Chromebook.
That's right.
After you had gone to bed, because of how long it was dragging on and how long of a day that had been.
Well, that's what happens when you pitch with Dolis Garcia.
The Pac-12 title game, the Washington Huskies lead 10-0 after the first, trail 24-20 going into the fourth, and then win 34-31, which was their second win over Oregon that season to punch their ticket to the college football playoff. The Florida Panthers tie game 7 against the Boston Bruins at 3-3 in the final minute with their goalie pulled, and then win it on a Carter Verhaeghe goal, 8:35 into the first OT. And it was the last game 7, the last time the Bruins had lost a game 7 playoff series at home was the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. Take a wild guess who that was against.
St. Louis?
That is very true. And both times, the reason why it's game of the year, there might have been better games, but that game left Brad Marchand crying on the bench.
Yes. Anytime you can make him or the other guy who I won't mention because it's a nice night that we're having. If you can make them cry, so be it.
The Denver Nuggets win their first ever NBA championship after missing 22 of their first 25 three-point attempts, and then held Miami scoreless for the final 158 for a 94-89 win in Game 5. And then the Browns-Ravens Week 10, the Browns trail by 14 points with 11:34 left after Baltimore pushes ahead and then score 3 times, including a Lamar Jackson pick 6, and then win on which, ironically enough, they missed the extra point on, still leaving them a point behind, and then the Browns proceed to walk off, winning the game 33-31.
All quality games. Jim, the Wisey for best game for 2023 goes to the Pac-12 title game. Oregon, for some reason, was a 9.5-point favorite. Michael Penix had a phenomenal game. So did Bo Nix. I mean, we kind of lost some of the luster on Bo Nix because he did not get it done against Washington at the time. What a phenomenal season for him.
Yes. He's going to be easily a top 10, maybe a top 5.
Yeah, and he should be. Smartest thing he did was leaving Auburn and going to Oregon.
Yes.
But look at the bottom of the final scores in both those games. They won those 2 games. The combined score was 70-64. You can't get much closer.
Look at the big brain on you with the quick addition.
Look, man, I'm actually quite shocked I did it. Don't ask me to do that again. But
what if your cap or do math?
Marshawn Lynch.
Shit, that's one thing I forgot to cut tonight. It'll be ready for next week.
Beast mode. That's what we should do each time. Never mind say his name. Say it like that. But the Johnson kid, the running back, is going to be a gem. Mark my words. A 28-carry, 159-yard, 2 TD performance in the championship game, and he was good in the Sugar Bowl. I just kicked the TV stand I'm using for the thing. Sorry about that. So best game, Pac-12 title game, and the final one, which kind of. I guess there's going to be a Pac-12, but it's not going to be anything like it was. So the final one of the Pac-12 we knew is that win there for Washington. I know you and I tossed around through the whole thing, giving it to Denver because it was their first championship. Did you happen to notice they held Miami to 89 points and held them scoreless for the last 2 minutes of the game? When's the last time you've heard that?
Yeah, I was going to bring it up as I was reading it up, but I figured let's get the award out of the way first. Yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar for some reason for a team getting their first title.
Yeah, I mean, the 2016 Game 7 sounds familiar, although Denver did win that at home.
Yeah, in 5, and this was not a Game 7.
No, and wasn't in a place where a team lost only once all year. So not that we're not Cavs homers, but still pretty damn impressive on both sides there.
Very, very much.
We had talked we talked about honorable mentions in excuse me, this year's NFL playoffs, but it was 2024. What other games do you think we could have thrown in there and discussed for that one?
I don't want to say any of the Ohio State games, not bashing them, but the game did not live up to the hype. I thought it was a lot more subdued than it was in previous years. Let's also be honest. Not for me trying to throw dirt on a grave here at this particular point, but I thought the two blowouts the previous years were even more entertaining than this year's game, because this year's game was it was a very sloppy game for about 3 quarters.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
To watch.
I would have thrown the Notre Dame game up there. That
was very entertaining, but I thought it was very, very tainted at the end because of the fact that, their head coach forgot how to count.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I would have thrown it up there because you had a guy in his third start go into one of the most hostile environments in college football and lead a drive where he needed a touchdown and got it. Didn't have many of those this year in college football. Missing it by a day, that Rose Bowl, I think, was phenomenal, as was the Sugar Bowl.
Yes. Both of those could be candidates for our show next year.
And not for nothing, if it wasn't on December 31st of 22, an argument could be made for the Peach Bowl last year between Ohio State and Georgia. Don't say it, because I'll bring up the other one. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're talking about what happened this past Saturday where Josh Allen decided to go Josh Allen.
And Bass turned into Scott Norwood.
See, I don't think that's fair, because Bass
I don't think it is either.
That scenario to begin with.
I sent one to John that I didn't send to you because I thought I was going to leave you alone, but this was actually kind of funny. It was the scene from Back to the Future where Marty goes, "Hey, this is a classic," and over Marty's head it says "Old Bills fans," and over, by the way, Wayne from the Wonder Years is playing what's her name's brother in that movie. It says "New Bills fans," and he goes, "Classic. This just came out."
I think somebody did send that to me, or I saw it on some Facebook. I don't think it was the NFL memes thing. Did you see did you see our favorite guy with
the eliminated quarterback club?
Yeah, but now the second round.
Yes, you sent it to me, and my favorite is, it's now or never for the Bills. Hey guys, okay, it's never.
It's never. But yet at that particular point, he still doesn't throw a whole lot of dirt on them. He actually throws dirt on everybody else.
No, but the CJ Stroud, Jordan Love thing was great.
Do we just become best friends?
Yo, the Super Bowl between those guys in a couple of years is going to be lit. Oh God. Hey, speaking of speaking of joyous things, let's get to the next one.
Let's keep this train rolling here. The 2024 Wisey Award for Best Story.
Go ahead.
The Cleveland Browns used 5 different starting quarterbacks, lose starters and all pros, Deshaun Watson, offensive lineman Jack Conklin, and Nicholas Jamal Chubb to injury, finish 11-6, were in the running for the number one seed in the AFC until the second last week of the regular season and then qualify for the NFL playoffs. The James Madison Dukes, in only their second year of Division I eligibility and currently on probation per NCAA rules, find a way around the system and get to a bowl game. The Fairleigh Dickinson Knights become the second ever 16 seed to upset a number one seed in the NCAA men's tournament in a win over Purdue.
Which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is why the Wiseys last year started late.
And Travis and Taylor, the Kansas City tight end and Cleveland native, taking the world by storm, dating the world's most well-known singer, basically triggering everybody on the right, making fans out of most people that never would watch football to begin with, and now are 1 week away from possibly having one of the highest rated Super Bowls for people who are not going to be watching the game whatsoever.
And the NFL will miss if Taylor and Eminem don't do the halftime show if Detroit beats San Francisco tomorrow.
I mean, we already know it's going to be Usher, but he's got to find a way to work both of them in somehow, some way, if they get in last minute.
And if Jason Kelsey's got to be shirtless for it. And the best story, 2024 Wisey Award goes to the Cleveland Browns. Now, listen, let's talk about what this team did. And let's talk about all of 2023 because, as we said last week, 2024 did not start out well for this team, but there's a lot to be optimistic about with some hesitation. And we'll go into that as we go through the year. But you're talking about Watson, PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, and Joe motherfucking Flacco playing quarterback, gets this team to a playoff run. The number one defense by statistics. They're under first season DC Jim Schwartz. Kevin Stefanski becomes the first coach since Bill Belichick to go to more than one playoff game or more than one playoff appearance for the Cleveland Browns. And they still have 6 Pro Bowlers, most of them on that defense. Listen, man, as much as
potentially a 7th, depending on what happens tomorrow, because if Justin Tucker, if the Ravens win, Justin Tucker is not going to play in that game, which actually means that, your hero, my hero, all of our hero will be the 7th. And that would be Mr. Dustin Hopkins.
I'm still a Phil Dawson guy.
Phil Dawson, I firmly believe that that the spirit of Phil Dawson flows through Dustin Hopkins as the old man.
That's fair.
The 10-year vet. That let's also be honest that, Jim Schwartz is probably going to win Assistant Coach of the Year. We've debated multiple times that Kevin Stefanski is either the number 1 or the number 2 option for head coach of the year. Andrew Berry is likely going to end up being executive of the year because he got 1,000 yards out of Amari Cooper now in the second year of that contract, restructured everything, put this team together to get to the playoffs the way that they did, to where they actually didn't have to clinch in the final week of the regular season like they did 3 years ago, and then ended up getting Amari Cooper for a 5th-round pick and got a Pro Bowler in Dustin Hopkins for a 7th-round pick just weeks before the season started.
Yeah, no, Barry did a phenomenal job, as did Kevin Stefanski, as did everybody who really had one of the best representations of next man up mentality that we saw all year out of any team. So big up to the Cleveland Browns. We will discuss the issues they have moving forward as we get into the NFL offseason and another year without a first-round pick.
But thankfully, the final year without a first-round pick.
Yeah. But we'll see how everything lands with that. So, Jim, I will say this. The other team I was thinking of was James Madison. I think that story about them getting the end around done to get into a bowl game was a phenomenal story.
All of these teams were well deserving, and I actually would lean a little bit towards Fairleigh Dickinson as well, just because when UMBC knocked off Arizona several years back. Remember, Arizona was missing the number one player in the country. Purdue had Zach Edey there, and it was a dogfight, and still hung tough with them just to show that one player can make that big of a difference. Because when UMBC beat Arizona, they ran them off the floor. Zach Edey had Purdue in that game, and then also remember that in their second game, UMBC got run out of the gym. Fairleigh Dickinson took their second round opponent into deep water.
Yeah, they did. They had a great run. And you can't really argue against it. It was a good run by Fairleigh Dickinson. UMBC was it was Arizona. That's about all I can say about that.
I mean, we hate Arizona, but it's like it busted every single like with that one. I want to say after I'm trying to remember the story, but I want to say after the Fairleigh Dickinson win that there were absolutely no brackets out of like 3 or 4 million that could have actually landed as perfect after that, whereas there were still
No way.
that actually had the UMBC win. But also remember UMBC, I want to say their win was on a Friday, and I want to say it was later because I actually remember I was at game night at Adams when that happened. But we were on the air we were going up late, and there were still games left on the table, for the nightcap on that one.
Yeah, because you were marking your sheet during the Wiseys last year.
Yep.
That was on St. Patrick's Day. Wow. We're talking about the first broadcast from this house. And I'm here a year in just a couple weeks. Unfucking real. Oh, by the way, I have a message from said spouse. She said to let her know when the next trip is going to be so she can level up Melina before you get down here.
To Miss Spouse, I have not turned that game on in over a month with all the advancement I've actually been doing with Warframe lately.
I figured as much.
It's a grinder's paradise and it's free. What can I say?
Not much.
Very true. But what we can say, Michael's going to have some fun here.
Yes, I am.
The Wisey Award for We Had Best Story. Michael gets the worst.
We have the worst story. Well, let's start with the second biggest choke job in the history of Southern football, only beaten by the 28-3 blown lead by the Atlanta Falcons. It's the Miami Hurricanes who don't kneel down to ice the game and lose on a walk-off TD to Georgia Tech. Worst story, down goes Anderson because he got the piss beat out of him and he started the fight. The CFP reveal. As we had mentioned previously in the show, and I'm going to get a little serious on this one.
Multiple times.
A great year of college football, an epic year of college football, was tainted very heavily by that decision. The final year of the 14 playoff turned into we didn't know it at the time, but a final gift to Nick Saban. Draymond sent home, ejected twice in a month, suspended indefinitely for punching opponent in the face during the game, misses 13 games total.
Which was also just a couple of weeks after he had tried to choke out Karl Anthony Towns.
No, it was Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert, okay.
He was standing there looking at him. And the brawl in across the pond is CM Punk. What a prick. He has a backstage fight on AEW's biggest show for the second consecutive year, and he's fired days later to show up back in WWE. And the winner for worst story in the 2024 Wiseys is down goes Anderson. Had to be carried back to Nuggets by
Michael.
Yeah, there's a theme. If anyone remembers, there was a double winner last year for the best and the worst jersey, maybe in the history of the world. but he had to be carried back to the dugout by his teammates. He was not re-signed by the White Sox after this year. He was suspended 6 games, which was upheld, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And Eloy Jimenez, who was really the only person, well, Luis Robert had a great year, but Eloy Jimenez, who is one of the only players who played any kind of good last year for the White Sox, it hurts his ankle, a la Ted Ginn in the fracas. So, this was the worst moment, because how are you going to put hands down? How are you going to drop the gloves and just take a beating on one punch? And you can see in the picture, he connected with Hosey's stomach. And he couldn't even say that I lost my foot.
That was actually a whiff because he's got all jersey there.
Oh, okay. And you can't even say he tripped. He went straight down.
And the other aspect about this is, you notice nobody ran and went to pick him up after he got dropped.
No.
This was just bad all the way around, from his antics the previous game to, standing over him and still applying the tag, after Hosey had slid between his legs, and then just immediately dropping the gloves and then just getting rocked. Jimenez getting hurt, the bench is clearing a second time, and that's where you actually had the coaches get into it. And then, getting forced down the tunnel. He staggered back to the dugout after getting forced back the first time. They literally had to throw him down the tunnel the second time, like basically pick him up and drag him down the steps and start walking him forcefully back up the tunnel to the locker room. And then, one of the few appearances by now Cleveland Guardians legend Noah Syndergaard trying to actually pull guys out of that pile.
Well, I mean, Thor was the guy to pull people off. I think he's big enough and scary enough to do that. And
I want to say it was Naylor that he was actually trying to drag away from that.
Well, yeah, because I think Naylor would have hurt someone. Naylor looks kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I also don't remember if it was Bo or Josh. I have to go back and watch the video.
I'm going to say it again. Beast mode. I wouldn't piss either one of them off. One's a catcher, and the other one's Terry Francona had to wear a fucking helmet.
It was actually one of the highlights of a rather disappointing season for the Guardians, but especially with all the injuries to the pitching staff. But it was like, could we expect anything less out of the White Sox?
I don't know. I told Alex to watch if he's watching and he wants to comment, have at it. Is there anything less we can expect out of the White Sox? He's going all Voldemort on him.
We couldn't even put them in most disappointing team because they weren't expected to actually be any good anyway. But they finish, dead last. They play in a ballpark that everybody hates. Their own announcer decides to bolt for an in-division rival, and then this shit.
Oh, were you expecting a response? Because there's nothing else to say. They're god awful.
Everyone in that division, the Guardians still have a lot of good young talent. The Twins are going to come back down to earth, but really didn't jump off the page last year. The Tigers have a very good young core. The Royals are going to be the Royals. They might be a 500 team before too long, but they'll actually get back to it. You can't say anything good about Chicago right now.
No, you really can't. But I will say this about that division. When you said the young talent, you were absolutely right. And remember, the Guardians had the first pick in the draft this year.
Right.
So what else we got that could possibly cause me to spit take and have to buy a new Chromebook, which is actually being shopped for already?
Well, hang on one second because I'm going to do the next one because your present comes after that. So let's rip through a couple of these.
Okay.
The Wisey Award for worst exit. James Harden forces his way out of Philadelphia joins a super team with the Clippers in a very, very highly publicized and extremely ugly scenario in Philly. Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay after 18 seasons, tears his ACL on the fourth play of the New York Jets season, picks a fight with Jimmy Kimmel that eventually leads for him getting dismissed from Pat McAfee's show and essentially getting terminated from ESPN. The Mets starting pitchers, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, are traded within days of each other and then end up facing each other in the World Series when the Mets have a fire sale. And Kyle McCord, without a guarantee of starting at Ohio State in 2024, announces a transfer before the Buckeyes bowl game to Syracuse, shows up on the sideline, and then Syracuse goes out and loses 45-0.
If it wasn't so funny, I'd cry. And the 2024 Wisey for worst exit goes to who, James?
Goes
You
to
son of a bitch.
and that's the worst thing about it, is because it's the worst exit, but it's actually been the most profitable outcome because the Clippers lost their first 5 and now they sit 4th in the West, and then the Sixers even afterwards sit 3rd in the East, and the Clippers have been absolutely on fire in the Western Conference, but it's the second time that this guy has forced a trade off a super team in his career. He did it in Brooklyn, and then he actually did it in and now he's done it, with the Sixers, and it's now the what? He had it in Oklahoma City, he had it in Brooklyn, he had it in Philly, and he's got I'm sorry, not Brooklyn, Houston. So it's now the 4th super team he's been in, and he's been to one final.
Yeah, is it just me or does he look like Barry White light?
Who's got a bigger forehead and whose hairline is running backwards, if I can quote Jay Farrow, him or LeBron? Just shave this shit already.
Beast mode. I've gone to the well 3 times.
Just there's nothing to like about this guy anymore.
No, there's really not. And I feel bad for him in one spot because they traded him to Houston he didn't force his way out of Oklahoma City. They traded him because they were trying to keep KD and Russ there. Okay, I get it. Cool. Understood. Stop worrying about your money. You'd have a title. Because Harden on that team in 2016, we're talking about a Cleveland OKC final, not a Cleveland Golden State final.
Who needs to shut their mouth more and quit whining, him or Ben Simmons?
Ben Simmons. Not only that, Ben Simmons needs a goddamn jumper.
Ben Simmons definitely needs a jumper, but Ben Simmons also needs, if there's a way to, surgically, we talk about, guys getting calf implants or women getting breast or butt implants. He needs a bubble wrap implant.
Oh, no shit. Absolutely, he does. I mean, he's another one. I shake my head. How is he the first pick in the draft? Because he was 6'9" and played point guard?
Yeah, but it's anymore.
So?
Thankfully, Kate Cunningham's starting to look, decent enough, even though Detroit's got nothing. Paolo Banchero, Orlando's kind of turning the corner a little bit. Orlando could be a playoff team this year, but it's like a lot of the number ones, you want these guys to come in and make an impact right away. But now it's almost become a project or a process at this particular point. Is it even really worth it? It's, the kid in Minnesota has become all world now because the Timberwolves have got the best record in the West right now. But again, it was a 2-year process.
Yeah, I think the thing that we're used to is that as we've grown up, that first pick in the draft has come in and immediately led whatever team he was drafted to get somewhat better. All the way back to 2003. Look what LeBron did in Cleveland in the first one. And you had other guys, Anthony Davis brought New Orleans up, then Zion, whatever. But unfortunately, right now with the NBA, is skill is being overlooked for highlight reel and where you went to college for a single year.
Yeah, and
You
that's
think
the
about
other
it.
aspect. It's just all these guys now that the the jumping up or playing a year in the D League or whatever. It's just watered down the player pool so much.
Well, that and expansion and everything else has watered down the player pool too. The fact that you have to be on an AAU team in order to even be looked at to go to college is ridiculous.
And just think of how much worse it's going to get when they expand to 32 probably here in the next couple of years when they put a team in Vegas or Seattle or whoever.
Yeah, that's going to be rough. That's going to be beyond rough.
Because it's going to happen, and then you figure baseball is going to probably open up to 32, and
I don't know if baseball will expand again. And the main reason
there's a
is
lot of talk about it, though. We've talked about it on this show.
we have, and there's a lot of talk, but the problem is with that is me personally, with the rule changes they're doing every year, I think Rob Manfred's starting to see the handwriting on the wall. He's got to get the fan bases to buy into what he's trying to do before he tries to add another one to it or another two to it.
Yeah, I don't
think about it.
Yeah, I don't think when baseball expands, I don't think they're going to put two in at once. I think you're going to see kind of like what the NHL did. You'll probably see like one come in and then they'll wait a couple of years and then do the second one, just because this way they can actually see how the revenue sharing is going to distribute amongst all of them anyway.
Yeah, but the problem with that, with the new schedule where you play everybody, it's going to mess it up because it's going to be uneven. You have to do two. And when the NHL did it, I want to say they were an odd number of teams, and then they went to the even number.
Yes.
Major League Baseball's got 30 teams. You have to go to 32 in order to get, because now if you look at it, remember we had the weighted scheduling where you played your teams in your division 19 times every year. Now we're into you would play everybody. Was it mid-May? The Mets will be in Cleveland. Last year, the Gardos, that was one of the games we could have put in for game of the year. The Mets come back in the ninth inning against the Gardos. Well, the seventh through the ninth inning. But yeah, I mean, they're playing everybody. You can't just do it now. You've got to you got to have the even numbers. And I don't know if they have two places that can support a Major League Baseball team in the country. Look how long it took them to get a friggin' stadium in Tampa and how good that franchise has been outside of,
I think with the SEC baseball market, I think Charlotte would be a very, very good option. But where do you put that second one now? Because I don't know about Nashville.
Charlotte barely supports the minor league team that's there. I don't think expansion for baseball is going to happen. I mean, I know we've talked about it, and now with Oakland with the A's leaving Oakland and everything else, it takes the one city that off the chart that would have supported a major league team because they're going to do it. They're just going to take one from another town.
Yeah,
they're going to pull the old Indianapolis thing.
If the NBA expands, the talk is like, let's go back to Seattle. Well, the NHL is proof positive enough that, they tried the thing in Atlanta twice and it didn't work. St. Louis had two NFL teams and lost them both. But then again, that second one was not their fault because Stan Kroenke's a piece of shit.
Yeah, you may be a Rams fan, but I think we can both agree that the owner of the Rams is a douche.
Not as much as Kyrie Irving. I will not sing songs. Stan Kroenke's
No. But remember, Kyrie's got the second word on it, which is where it can be sing-songed. Stan Kroenke,
let's also remember that Stan Kroenke's also parlayed that into a Super Bowl with the Rams 2 years ago, and then a Stanley Cup with the Avalanche 2 years ago as well, which he owns.
Kroenke owns the Avalanche? What?
Michael.
James. It's time.
That sound means only one thing.
Our first novelty award of the evening. The worst performance by a soon-to-be felon. This is my award, as I came up with this one with all the stupidity that we have seen from players in these leagues, and we're going to start with Josh Giddey. Is he a forward?
I maybe guard forward.
He's a guard forward, second-year player for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Suspected relationship with underage girl, charges not pursued by law enforcement, and it came out that this was several years ago, and yada yada. Wander Franco.
I will play it between each one just for you, as you personally requested.
I do appreciate that. Wander Franco, of course, the ongoing allegations of sexual abuse against a minor in the Dominican Republic. He was arrested on New Year's Day for failing to appear in court to answer a summons. This son of a bitch. Draymond Green choked Rudy Gobert from behind, was ejected, suspended 5 games, punched Nurkic in the face on Zachary's birthday, and was suspended indefinitely, which ended up being...
That was a slip.
It still fit. It still fit. Von Miller, accused of abusing pregnant girlfriend, later turned himself in after warrant was sworn out for his arrest.
I don't know why that says warranty. I was actually working on this at work, so I actually had work on the brain.
And hit it again. And finally, Julio Urias, the pitcher from the Los Angeles Dodgers, arrested on September 3rd for felony domestic violence outside a stadium of LAFC soccer game, placed on leave by MLB on 9/6, and charges were not pursued by law enforcement, but he was a second offender. So the worst performance by a soon-to-be felon, the Wisey goes to...
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
This motherfucker. It's the 6th suspension of his career. The Warriors no longer have leverage with discipline due to repeat offenses. Not a single player, coach, or analyst came to his defense. Let's go back in his history. He basically helped cost this team a shot at 4 in a row.
Which was the first time he was ever suspended, was Game 5.
And the killer is, though, and we've talked about this, and I've said this to people who've always said that, Draymond wasn't suspended. Draymond should have been suspended in the Western Conference Finals. They should have never got to the finals that year.
Right.
But they didn't suspend him. And then he went after LeBron, which, idiot. But this dude, cuff his ass. Karl Anthony Towns is holding Rudy Gobert's hand. Do you see that?
Right.
If I'm Cat right there, I'm punching Draymond on the side of his face.
And Anthony Edwards trying to pull Draymond's other arm off on the right side of that screen.
He's got that Detroit Rock City locked in on him right there. It ain't happening, that hood rat. And he does look like Donkey from Shrek. I was hoping you would put that picture up. Like you did last year with the Bill Cosby one.
I figure this one actually tells the tale a little bit better.
Yeah, it really does. So Draymond, congratulations. You'll get your Wisey in the mail when we figure out which penitentiary you're in
6 to 8 weeks. Maybe
6 to 8 weeks.
We'll actually use that new shipping service. It's where FedEx and UPS get together. It's called FedUp. You'll get it in 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe.
Draymond Shawshank Green.
You might get all of your neighbors' packages and they won't tell you about them.
Draymond Shawshank Green. I think I'm just going to call him Shawshank from now on.
That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea. Or we can call him Andy.
No, but Andy was innocent.
What was Morgan Freeman's name in that movie?
Red.
Red. He's Red from now on. He's Red.
Yeah, but everybody liked Red. Only about a third of the population actually likes fake Bobby.
Fake Bobby?
Fake Bobby Brown.
I forgot about that. I thought you said fat Bobby Brown the first time.
No, fake Bobby Brown along with the DeBarge brothers. Thank you, Tony Rizzo.
Oh, my God. Speaking of Cleveland shout-outs there.
Yep, one Cleveland legend to another.
I'm talking about you. Screw Rizzo.
As we're almost down to the end here, we've only got 2 left to go, Michael.
So, Jim, I think it's time for your specialty award of the evening.
And mine is an audio daily double.
Do you have the Jeopardy music? Because that would be hilarious.
The 2024 Wisey for best call of the year. Down goes Anderson, which we've already talked about tonight twice.
Now Hosey and Anderson square up. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
That's wonderful. Oh, the next one, Jim.
I had to dig for a good 35 minutes to find this clip earlier. The audio is not the greatest because it's kind of taken from fan cam, but the longtime voice of the Cleveland Browns returns after a 2-month absence for leukemia treatment.
And welcome back to the voice of the Cleveland Browns who just smashed that guitar to roof. All right, Derek. Oh, have an easy record, huh? All right, here we go. The Browns are on. First down and 10. We are in the shotgun. Takes the snap. Looks. Screen pass set up. Near side left. Double screen over the 40 out to the 42. Hey, give it! Welcome back. Great job.
Credit to the Cleveland Browns and Cleveland.com for that one. Also with Down Goes Anderson, credit to Cleveland Indians Radio Network.
Guardians.
One that was not that I forgot to add into here. I have the audio, but I did not get it added. In a game earlier this month between the Ottawa Senators and the Florida Panthers, Matthew Tkachuk is sitting in the penalty box. The Senators are up 4-1. Brady Tkachuk takes a run at Sergei Bobrovsky, Florida's goaltender. We get a melee on the ice with about 7 minutes to go. The game pretty well in hand. And then we get this gem.
Ottawa penalty number 7 has 2 minutes for goaltender interference, 2 minutes for roughing. Florida number 12 has 2 minutes for roughing, and then every player on the ice has a 10-minute misconduct. Florida will have a 2-minute power play.
The first time I've ever seen an official throw all 10 players on the ice off the ice. With only 10 minutes to go, he gives all 10 skaters, not the 2 goaltenders, but all 10 skaters a 10-minute misconduct, kicking them out of the remainder of the game.
Is that, what's his name?
No,
Was that Wes McCauley?
That's not Wes McCauley.
That would have been funnier if it was Wes
Would
McCauley.
have a lot more flair.
He probably would have named all of them by name.
That is very true. Staying along the hockey idea, history is hers. Ella Shelton scores the first goal in the history of the Professional Women's Hockey League, this courtesy of the PHL's official YouTube channel.
Sign free agent Alex Carpenter, and she'll take the draw on New York. Wins at Shelton with her second, and she gets it! Ella Shelton scores! History is hers! The first goal of the Professional Women's Hockey League. Ella Shelton.
Not as much flair or drama as some of the others, but it is the first major professional women's hockey league that's got a chance to succeed here, especially with the ratings that they've been doing, the crowds that they've been drawing, and the interest that's just been shown here. Mike's even actually seen, some of this even down there in Georgia, although the furthest team that they have south right now, I want to say, is their New York franchise. But how cool is that for the first major super league, you get the honor of having the first puck in the net?
That's pretty cool. That's my second favorite of these so far. We know what my favorite is, and it's not the first one.
Jason Kosmicki, Denver Nuggets play-by-play announcer, calls the Nuggets' first championship.
The 47-year wait is over. The Denver Nuggets stand on top of the NBA world. They are champions. And Nuggets fans from sea to shining sea can rest or die in peace.
I love those.
It reminds me so much of Fred
Oh,
calling the first one. Just the 52-year drought is over, shouting it at the Oakland fans. John Michael on the same call on the TV side saying the impossible dream has come true. It's always very interesting to see how a team calls their first one. You always love to hear the call of the radio guy calling the championship, but the first one.
yeah, and I remember John Michael's call.
And lastly, probably the funniest one we've had all year. Butt cheeks are announced to a crowd of nearly 90,000.
Birds of the receiver's leg in and out of bounds. His butt cheek get inbound.
Which referee was that?
That's right. In the middle of a Browns-Rams game, the receiver, apparently one butt cheek equals 2 feet.
Depending on the
It was
receiver.
ruled- and was ruled a catch.
Oh, God. And the Wisey for best call of the year, James.
We'll have to play it again.
The 47-year wait is over. The Denver Nuggets stand on top of the NBA world. They are champions. And Nuggets fans from sea to shining sea can rest or die in peace.
That is Jason Kosmicki of the Denver Nuggets radio network. And the best part of this clip was the video that was posted by the Nuggets and the local radio affiliate. I want to say it was Alpine Sports, of longtime NBA journeyman Scott Hastings is his play-by-play guy, who actually told him, as you can see, as a quick impression, Kosmicki is doing the call after taking his glasses off, and some of it with his eyes closed, and Hastings is standing up next to him, telling him, JK, take your headphones off and just soak this in for a minute. And you hear radio silence for about the next 30 seconds.
And as much as a three-peat would have been nice for Tom Hamilton, as much as Jimmy coming back, and that's the one that got me. When he broke down on the air, that got me. This one, dude, good pull.
The sea to shining sea can rest or die in peace. It brings you back to when the Cavs broke through. It brings you back to when the Blues broke through. It brings you back to when the Cubs broke through. When the Red Sox broke the curse. It's when the White Sox finally got theirs a couple of years after the right after the Red Sox. When the Tigers broke through. Just whenever you get the first one, especially when it's been this long, which is why when the Browns finally get through, when when some of these younger teams, when the Panthers or the Jaguars or the Texans ever win their first one, you're going to see this happen possibly in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tomorrow, if the Lions finish this off.
Oh my God. I can't even.
I hate to borrow the term from Cody Rhodes because you know how I feel about that company, and we actually didn't touch on it in the in the last category, but it's Cody's line is finish the story, where he actually win the title that his father never did. but just to be able to go out there and finish it, and the dogfight that they had in the Western Conference Finals, and then just to go out there and seemingly they could have won that game in 4 if they wanted to. I still think that, being up 3-0, I don't want to say they lost game 4 on purpose, because you never really want to point that out, but I do want to think that they kind of held back a little bit so they can win this in front of their own fans at Ball Center.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's I thought the same thing too. I think we talked about that on an episode during that we thought they, all right, we're up 3-0, but let's go home and win this thing.
And especially with the Nuggets here, as you can see, 31 years as the lead play-by-play announcer. You always love to see not only if a team breaks through, but also the longtime announcer, which is why, we would love to see the Browns get through before Jimmy has to step away, whether it's, on his own accord with, or not, which is why we would have loved to have seen Joe Tate in the booth. Which is why it was so cool for Hawk Harrelson to be able to call one with the White Sox. Just, all of these teams with their longtime legendary announcers. It would be great to see Howie Rose call one with the Mets,
Oh, dude, I was just going to say that. He has said, and you love Howie too, being the Islanders guy. He has said the greatest call he's ever made, and if you ever listen to it, and I would say as a radio guy, you should. When he calls that the Mets won the pennant in 2015, he cried. You could hear it in his voice when he said they're heading to the World Series. It broke like Jimmy's did in that thing. And he said, I got one left in me. And it is the greatest one I'll ever do. And I would dare to say this. If he makes that call, he'll hang it up.
I want you to rank these, and I'm actually going to stutter over this for a moment while I'm putting this together.
Okay.
Who do you think not so much would be the most deserving, but who do you think, when it comes down to brass tacks, if they broke through for how long they've been with their franchises, would it be the best call of them all? Jimmy calling the Browns winning the Super Bowl, Howie Rose calling the Mets winning a World Series, Tom Hamilton calling the Guardians winning a World Series, the Lions in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to think of one more here. Whoever runs the call on for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ooh.
Because the Leafs have not won, I want to say, since 46, 47, somewhere in there. Or here's another one. Let me pull out the Maple Leafs there, because if the Leafs win, we'll never hear the end of it until the end of time. One of the greatest football announcers that there is for a team who's always been knocking on the door, but maybe is going into rebuilding mode, the Minnesota Vikings.
Ooh.
Because I want to say that guy's from the Cleveland area too.
Very selfishly, let me rank these. Number one is the Cleveland Browns. For that city to hear those words from Jim Donovan, that's number one. 1A.
Considering how close they actually got with Nev Chandler calling them all those years ago as well.
Yeah. And 1A would be if the Lions get this thing done this year. 2, very selfishly, would be Howie Rose calling the Mets winning the World Series. I've waited 38 years. Tom Hamilton calling a Guardians championship is only slotted where it is. I don't think Tom Hamilton's from Cleveland.
He's not, but I actually think
But he's been there long enough.
I think I know where you're going with this, because he's called 2 Game 7s.
Yeah, and he's called 2 Game 7s. But the one thing these guys have in common, I'm pretty sure the Lions have a former player on their radio broadcasts. It's Deerdorf, isn't it?
No, Deerdorf's on Michigan.
Not Deerdorf. Is Spielman doing radio for them?
It is WJKB Fox 2 sports director Dan Miller, and then Lomas Brown on color commentary, and then TJ Lang is the sideline reporter.
Big Lomas?
Yep.
Oh. As far as fan base go, I think Detroit would be up there. Speaking of fan bases getting something they may that a little nostalgic, looks like Cookie's going back to Cleveland.
Yeah.
Minor league deal, spring training invite.
Yeah, but the depth that they have, it's just a feel good for, hey, sign with Cleveland, play here through the year, retire at this point.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's what he should do. But a depth piece can't beat it. Yeah, that's tough. But the Browns and the Lions fan bases are the ones that deserve a championship out of that list. More than any other one in there. Tom Hamilton's called 2 Game 7s. They came within an eyelash and a rain delay of breaking that streak. Howie Rose has called a World Series. I would hope the Mets would be smart enough to let Gary Cohen sit in the booth with Howie Rose to call that World Series. Because you're talking about 2 guys who started in the upper deck at Shea Stadium and now are in the Mets Hall of Fame as broadcasters and really should have won the Frick Award by now. But to hear Jim Donovan say the words, I don't know if he can get him out.
I don't think he will get them out, because if he got that emotional his first game back, especially with Nathan Zagura, it's Deacon would not come back for that. Deacon's, Doug's officially gone. What would okay, let me pose this question to you here as a former Clevelander. What would you rather have right now? Like now. The reaction of Jim Donovan calling a Super Bowl, but the Browns not winning it, or Jim Donovan jacked up for a Browns home playoff game?
Ooh, home playoff game. As crazy as that sounds, and me who has said on this show multiple times that the Cleveland Browns fan base deserves a Super Bowl, you would see the hilarity and the lunacy of what Game 7 was downtown when this team hosts a playoff game. Wow.
Talk about a way of sneaking in one of our new segments without actually sneaking in the segment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Sneaking in this or that.
I mean, if you think about it, with calls, you have things in your brain from them that you'll never forget.
Right.
We will always hear in our heads every time the Guardians make the playoffs, Cleveland, you will have an October to remember.
We will always hear, as Cleveland Browns fans, regardless of this team's recent history, especially with their quarterback, but let's also be honest that we do kind of owe that guy for getting into the playoffs this year. We will always hear, what's the most historic call that you remember since this team's been back in 1999? Run, William, run.
No. Chubba Wub Hub.
Chubba Wub Hub was good because it was the longest run in franchise history. It was probably the most entertaining call.
But one William One got them into the playoffs.
Yes, because that was the go-ahead scorer to win them the game to clinch getting in. And then I want to say also on the podium, and we can slot them however we want to, was his call from 3 years ago, the win over the Steelers, saying the only thing that's missing is all of you when they clinched.
Yes. I hear in my
That was
head.
the COVID year where only 15,000 people were allowed in that gigantic stadium.
Exactly. And then I have in my head, good night, Oakland. It's over. The 52-year drought is over.
It's over.
And I have savor it, soak it in. The kid from Akron has come home and made the impossible dream come true. Yeah, and Mike Breen's call that night. Cleveland is the city of champions once again. I also have in my head from a non-championship one, Gary Cohen at the top of his lungs screaming, "It has happened." In their 51st season, Johan Santana has thrown the first no-hitter in New York Mets history. At the same time, and this is how long these two guys have been Met fans, Howie Rose said in the 8,020th game in the history of the New York Mets, they finally have a no-hitter. Poetic.
And this is why they get paid the money that they do, and then they will live on in infamy until the end of time.
Gary Thorne's call of the end of the 94 Stanley Cup on ESPN.
Him screaming in effigy when Joe Sakic handed the cup to Ray Bork.
And he just said his name.
The Avalanche winning the cup, nah. Sakic getting the cup from Gary Bettman, nah. People losing their shit knowing that cup, those 36 pounds of silver was immediately going to the greatest defenseman of all time.
Oh, yeah. And then somehow ended up at Jason Kelsey's house. Oh, well, Jim, we got a couple more left to give away, and we're at 143.
I want to say, no, actually, we only have one left. But it's not really one to give out. It's one to raise to the heavens.
Yes, it is. And for the first time, we were discussing how we could wrap up the Wisey Awards for 2024. And I had mentioned to Jim, well, why don't we have a Hall of Fame? We're 3 years into this now.
Oh, man, before I jump in, I had a soundbite for you.
Oh, did you?
Yes. Let me rewind here. Michael, would you actually like to go back and re-award this?
Sure. And the worst performance by a soon-to-be felon goes to...
Hey, was a convicted felon, isn't he, Monty?
On that note, let me do this. Happy 90th birthday to Harry Doyle himself, Mr. Bob Uecker, 90 years young as of yesterday. And if you haven't watched his acceptance speech of the Ford Frick Award in 2003, watch it. Have you seen it?
Who hasn't?
Oh, my God. You know he didn't write that?
The only thing I could ever classify it as was Bobby the Brain Heenan's Hall of Fame speech from 2004. Right after he had actually come off of throat cancer surgery.
Which was epic. Harry Doyle. So when Jim and I were talking about the Wiseys this year, we decided we were going to induct the first ever member of the Wisey's Hall of Fame. Now, we're in year 3 of this show, and we have had many moments that we could talk about with this. And we have had many moments where we're looking at each other going, did we really just say that? Did that really happen? Well,
hence the Wisey translator that unfortunately, due to time constraints, had to be cut for tonight.
Yes, and we were going to do the Wisey Translator of the Year a la the way the Oscars does Best Picture, where we were going to cut it, and we couldn't cut it down to enough. That was the problem. We had too many
And
that we
we had
both.
too many in there because then we had a ranking system, we had a polling system. It's it got to be more trouble than it was worth, and then pulling all the video out and retrimming all of that.
It got rough. So next week, as our guest next week actually has to reschedule. So next week we will, in the second half of the show, we will bring you what we decided was the Wisey Translator of the Year, and of course we will do the Wisey Translator next week. But yeah, so we decided we were going to induct our first member of the Wisey Hall of Fame, and my wife provided us with the logo for the Wisey Hall of Fame. It is done out in blue and orange, as is my hat that Jim had made for me all those back to episode 1. We're on 56, and we are in. Dude, I need that because I need to use that at work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're getting it. You're getting it. You'll
Oh.
probably get it sometime tomorrow, or because since I don't have a translator to cut tonight, I still have to cut last week's. But yeah, you'll get that because I ain't doing shit tomorrow.
Dude, we gotta go to Walmart. Oh, can I just tell you off topic? We have the gluten-free Oreos in the house for Bobby. I was showing when you were here.
Yep.
They did the golden Oreos and gluten-free. You can't even taste the difference. Like the chocolate ones, you can taste a little bit of difference. These, exactly the same.
I got to pick up my prescription tomorrow, and I'm disputing because I made the mistake of spending $29 for dinner at Sheetz last night.
The hell did you get for $29 at Sheetz?
Bag of popcorners,
Okay.
honey barbecue beef stick,
Okay.
bucket of curly fries, bucket of
Okay.
mozzarella sticks, and spicy
Okay.
chicken sandwich, and a Coke.
All's forgiven.
I went full fat kid.
Dude, I made homemade mozzarella sticks last week.
As we're now talking about food porn,
Yes. I broke out the new toy, which was the double basket air fryer. And I made fucking stop.
bang, bang, scissor gang, bang, bang, scissor gang.
I made those, and then I did fried pickles, which were god awful. They were god awful. I got to do it differently next time. So back to what we were talking about before we got distracted, because now I'm hungry. So we decided we were going to start the Wisey Hall of Fame. So every year for the Wisey Awards for the next however many years we do this, which the way him and I are going, we're going to do it for friggin' ever anyway. We will take something from the previous year, and we will discuss and we will induct it into the Wisey Hall of Fame. It is going to be something that we got a lot of legs out of as far as the comedy portion of the show. It'll be something that had a lot of weight when it comes to how we proceeded in shows discussing that. And our first inductee is something of a myth. It is something that was the first winner of 2 Wiseys in back-to-back categories.
I'm trying to cue up music. I don't know how well this is going to go. So Mike, keep talking for a moment because I want to make sure that there's no ads that are going to play when I play this.
Oh boy, this is going to be good. The first inductee had to be something that got a reaction out of many different people during the episodes that we featured it on. And I would say that this one checked all the boxes. And Oliver, would you get down? It checked all the boxes. It is something that has given us great joy and probably the longest legs of any joke we have made in the history of the show, 56 episodes in. So, James, if you would hit the music and unveil the first ever inductee into the Wisey Hall of Fame, please. The first inductee, ladies and gentlemen, is the Clit jersey. Yes, that's right. The moment that James said the F-bomb in full surprise on our end of year episode in 2021, it won the best and worst uniform in 2022 and has been mentioned several times in 2023. The, as we like to call it, the Click Commander is the first inductee into the Wisey's Hall of Fame.
It even got legs out of it to where it had to be brought up with guests that had not seen it before.
I mean, Patrick, when we explained that one, well, first, Jim, I think it needs something first besides your.
And I will risk the copyright infringement to be able to play the Johnny Carson theme for this.
That was great, and I don't have the thing I'm looking for because you don't share, Dick. Do
Tell
the
me, I'll
applause.
play it.
Do the applause.
We said it last week with our return show. This is the segment of the show because of this and the hilarity that's going to ensue and has ensued, that this is where Jim and Mike substitute music and background and flashy graphics for just fucking with the soundboard.
Yes. Yes. God
damn it. Beat me to it.
Okay. Can we go on that and talk about what I sent you on Instagram? Oh, so first of all, let's have one more round of applause for the first entry into the Wise Guys Sports Show Hall of Fame. And just real quick, because I'm the one that introduced it when we did that. John is the one who figured out the pinstripe between the L and the T. Alex is the one who couldn't believe they did it. Patrick is the one who brought up, how does Nike get away with this? I brought up the spread legs and the ball thing. I mean, everybody has touched this. That sounds really bad. That sounds really bad. Everybody has touched the clit. Except Willie. We haven't discussed this with Brother Willie yet. But I don't think we can.
I think it's kind of run its course.
Yeah, it's in the Hall of Fame. It's the plaques on the wall. So Jim and I we were talking about the soundboard. We always do the screaming sheep from the Taylor Swift video. Someone cut that same video to Jason Kelsey, bare-chested in Buffalo.
Bare-chested?
He was.
Are we going to start talking about possibly, Hall of Fame calls? Because
The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
he's bare-chested, banging his chest.
He did the Yeti call. If anybody who's watching this or is going to watch this or listen later, his wife told him to be on his best behavior. And anybody who watches New Heights or listens to New Heights or watched the Kelsey movie on Prime knows that Jason passed out drunk the first time he met Kylie and basically said, I passed out drunk when I met you. This is part of my charm.
And then hopped out of the booth bare-chested to pick up a Taylor Swift fan.
That was cool. That was cool. And I don't know if you saw that Travis said that Taylor told Travis that she adores her brother or his brother. Oh, man. So, Jim, that puts a nice little bow on the Wiseys for 2024. I can't believe we've done our second show already. But Jim, as always,
sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
I think we have found the perfect piggyback on the soundboard.
Now I need to actually figure out which one of these I can start combining for drops.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Because we always have the infamous.
Well, if you're going to do those two, you got to follow up with this one.
Emotional damage.
Or, well, we actually have another one now that you're going to get here.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
That has served a purpose, though. The other ones are fun. The pivot actually gets us out of topics in the hat trick. By the way, I want to keep it the hat trick, by the way. I think that's
Okay.
great. That's a great thing. So I want to get to the serious part of the show. And I want to tell everybody out there that this episode would not nearly be as fun and would not nearly be as good without the technical awareness and knowledge of my co-host. I'm the asshole who talks a lot and finds guests. Jim does everything else. And I can't thank you enough. I said this before when we do our year-end show. I love doing this. We have, remember our calendar we have on the fridge?
Yep.
Every Saturday. We have our own color in our color coordinated calendar that puts the show on the that puts the show on every Saturday. Of course, when we switch it, I'm told you got to switch the day, and I do kind of sometimes. When did we do the Friday night that I forgot to do? Oh no, last week when we decided to do a show, I forgot to put it on the calendar. I got yelled at. It was fun. But in all seriousness, tonight, dude, fucking epic. Thank you so much. It was phenomenal.
And then what we actually had to do, our first show coming back was because of the Browns game, the playoff game.
Yeah, that's right. Because we moved to the Friday because the Browns were playing on Saturday, and we didn't want to be on if they lost.
Yeah.
But
we also didn't want to they won because we wouldn't be talking about anything else.
That's true. So next week we're gonna have another content heavy show. We've got, tomorrow is the AFC and NFC championship games. We're in February already. We are 2 weeks from the Wise Guys preview the Super Bowl. Alex will be on the 10th for that. It was going to be the debut of the 4 horsemen of the Wisey Apocalypse, but unfortunately, one of the horsemen is unable to join us because here we go, D. Malenko. Very nice.
Now, does that make me the nature boy?
You got the Rolex wearing, yeah, I guess.
Having a hard time keeping these alligators down.
Good God. But as it is, our one member of the 4 horsemen of the Wisey Apocalypse will be working the scoreboard at the Super Bowl. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. John Rice, the sporting Sith himself, is working the Super Bowl. So, John, if you watch this, if even 1 second gets fucked up, you're done. We're going after you. What did you say? We're going to grade him like a report card?
It's not going to be. It's going to be a roast. You tried to roast me on my birthday. This is you. Normally, you have to pay for 2-for-1 action like that.
No, that's not what I heard. I heard Jason Bateman and dodgeball in my head. You usually got to pay extra for that kind of thing, God.
It's a bold strategy. Let's see if it pays off.
Oh my God, cut that. When we do a free agency. I've even seen a grown man satisfy a camel. And that guy went on to play the vice president of the United States in the West Wing.
And the other guy right now is leading the senior team on NCIS.
Same guy. He played the vice president on the West Wing. But so next week,
I had to pull.
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fired.
Oh yes, fined.
Be easy to.
So next week we will wrap up the AFC and NFC championship games, respectively. We will also get into a little bit of NBA. You know us. We always find, at least in the first section, we're going to go topic heavy. We're going to do the first 45 minutes to an hour topic heavy, and then we'll have our intermission, and then we will jump into the second half, which will be the hilarity that is the Wisey translator. So James, I'd say we can, and our guest has a prior commitment that he forgot about, so we will get Eddie Parker on here. Great dude. He is checking his calendar. He may be with us for the Super Bowl preview. He's not sure yet. The guy is a working DJ who everybody wants to get a hold of, so his calendar's booked out months in advance. Oh, by the way, he's a Cardinal fan. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, but it's wrong to be a Cardinal fan right now, especially coming off the season they had.
He's also a Bears fan. So we got to get him and Alex together because that'll be funny.
What would be funnier, them getting together before the Super Bowl or like for the draft show? Because we're going to do a live draft again this year.
Yeah, so I mean that's coming up. We live draft, and let me look at the calendar, and I'll make the announcement now. The first episode of Big Rican since October of 2022, or no, since January or December of 2022, because there was a Big Rican episode where he previewed the CFP. Will be recorded and out not only on all of its normal channels, but now on YouTube Music as I move the RSS feed to there. All the episodes of Big Rican all the way back to episode 1 is on. It's not in order, unfortunately, because I uploaded it all the same day.
As I also had a notification trying to pull up a podcast going for a walk about 2 hours before we went live, that Google Podcast will be shut down as of, I want to say, April 10th.
Yeah. The week of Valentine's Day, I will have that Big Rican episode out. It will be a full teardown and talk about the 2023/2024 New York Mets. I am gathering ammunition to scream about this franchise, which I can do on the daily anyway. Exactly. So, James.
By the way, I also have a message for you very quickly. Miss Amy says hello.
Hi, Amy.
I was there getting the lettuce tightened up this morning and threatened to leave her.
Why?
She says that she's pulling for Baltimore tomorrow because she's so sick of seeing Kansas City. I said,
okay.
I hate both of these teams as well.
Okay. Here's the difference. One used to be your team.
And this is where it gets fun. I actually said, you bite your tongue. She's like, I'm so sick of seeing Kansas City. I said, but that would be, if they finish this, that's 3 Super Bowls that they've had since they've moved. And I looked right at her mom and I said, Mary Lou, it's been very nice knowing you. I'm going to start going to Lady J's. And she says, don't you cheat on me. I said, because you're cheating on Cleveland.
Good for you. And Cleveland Heights' second favorite son.
We were brush kids. Fuck Cleveland Heights.
I'm talking about the Kelseys. Cleveland Heights' second favorite son, because Jason's a favorite. Being the oldest, I can say that. As can you, James. The second favorite son is going to win. It could win his 3rd ring. I got to tell you, I hope the Crows get smoked tomorrow. And I'm going to say it.
Could they both lose? Because
as much as I hate that state, is there anybody not pulling for the Detroit Lions?
If they do not win tomorrow, I will not be watching the game in 2 weeks. You might be hosting that show solo next week.
No, we could preview it. We just won't watch it.
Would I even care?
It's content, James. We're trying to build this thing here.
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
It's not nice. And I do.
That's what she said.
You asshole. So with that, me calling my co-host an asshole, we will see you guys next Saturday at 9 p.m. on the 3rd of February right here on the Wise Guys channel. I'll actually have a TikTok up for next week too. I just ran out of time and, napped with Bobby before I went on. So for Jim, for me, thank you for watching the Wisey's. We hope we've enriched your Saturday night, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.